Hello, assalamu alaikum. How are you all doing? Welcome to the fourth and final session of our event, Happily Ever After. I am your coach, Coach Binish, and I help women gain clarity, find direction, find happiness and love in their lives without feeling guilty, ashamed, or sorry. So, today is our final session for the event of Happily Ever After. And if you haven't watched the recordings, go ahead and watch the recordings and let me know how are you liking it. And hopefully, I'm gonna come back next week with something else, something new. So let's begin our session and say hello whenever you join me. Say hello. Let me know where you're joining me from and pay attention to the announcement I'm going to be making in a few minutes, okay? It's going to be somewhere in the session, so pay attention to that. So you have to stick with me for some time, all right? If you are watching me in a replay, comment hashtag replay. Let me know that you're watching me. Let me know that you're benefiting from these sessions. It encourages me, it helps me, it makes me, it's a feedback I look forward to, and that tells me that what I'm doing for you guys is actually something you are benefiting from. So let me know, inshallah. All right, so let's begin. So, just a quick review before we go on to our fourth session. Just a quick review of all the sessions, inshallah. In the first session, we talked about the intention of marriage. So we basically went into deep conversation about why we should actually get married. What should be your first and most important intention to get married? And then in the second session, we talked about some key points for a successful marriage. And honestly, if we do those things, if we apply those things in our lives, in our marriages, it's going to become so much more easier than we are experiencing right now. It's going to be a relief. So trust me, go ahead and do that. Watch session number 2 for that detail. In session number 3, we talked about the challenges the couples face. Um, Daily life challenges, struggles between each other, the power struggle, the arguments, and not being able to understand each other. Only because we don't have the skills, only because we're not open to learning how and where I can help my spouse, how and where I can help myself. So we all need to understand these things to be able to live a happy and productive and healthy married life, inshallah. Let's come to today's topic. So, today's topic, week 4, session number 4, is about how to deal with difficult relatives. It is very common in any culture, regardless where you come from. We face difficulty with our in laws, and sometimes even with our own family, we face difficulty, and it's for both the spouses. It happens with women, and it also happens with men. So if either side of the family sometimes become too difficult to handle. But generally, as women, I know that most of the time women are the ones who have to deal with this, with the relatives from her spouse's side, her in-laws, her parent-in-laws, or siblings, a little more than men. And it becomes challenging. Most of the time it's challenging. First few weeks are very good, but after that, when the real life begins, when the people start living together, and then there are clashes, and there are difference of opinions, and there are expectations, and there are so much friction between the two people, especially the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law, which causes tension between the spouses. It causes tension between you and your spouse, and that's not fair. It affects your marriage, and that's not fair, right? So, what needs to be done to limit it, as you know, limit it as much as possible, or to reduce this friction, or to avoid it if it's possible. So what can we do? How can we make this happen? Because we don't want to break our relationships, or we don't want to hurt each other just because my mother said this or my mother said that. And just because I want to prefer one over the other. How can you be balanced? How can you be just in your relationships, and take both relationship and both all your relationships in a very, very just manner, in a very, very careful manner, that nobody's hurt, inshallah. So there's one very important thing we need to know as women, that in our husband's life there are two women who are going to be very, very important. So if you're joining me now, say hello and tell me where you're joining me from. So in our husband's life, the two women who are always going to be very, very important for them are going to be his mother and his sister. So this is a fact, and this is something that you have to just make peace with. He's going to give importance to his mother. Most of the time, it's the mother. Um, Sometimes it's the sister also, but most of the time it's the mother. And we know how high status we give to our mothers, how much we love our mothers, how much we respect them, honor them, and that's how they are raised. All right, so we need to understand that this woman who has taken care of this person for like about 20, 25, 30 years of his life, she has babied him, and now all of a sudden he's married and he is not behaving the way he used to behave with her before the marriage. It causes some insecurities in the mother's heart, which is natural. I completely understand that. So it's very important for the man to make it clear to his mother that, even though I'm married, your status in my life is the same. It's not gonna change. It's never gonna change. So um, the man has to give that security to the mother, not on the cost of taking away the wife's right. So that's a clarity he has to give to his mother, that yes, your rights and your status in my life is going to be exactly the same, if not more. But that does not mean that I'm not going to give my wife her rights. So as men, there is a huge responsibility on the men in this dynamic, in these dynamics of these kind of relationships. Okay, when you establish some boundaries, and you have to reinforce them, and you have to do it in a way that nobody's hurt, everybody gets what their due right is, and you also, the man, also doesn't become a tennis ball or something, a football who's like both of the parties are kicking here and there. So we have to, as women, as daughter-in-laws, we have to understand and this woman who is the mother of my husband has taken care of him for like the whole life, and she dedicated her life to him. Literally, this is what happens in our society, in our cultures. Mothers kind of raise their sons as babies, and they stay babies until forever, which is wrong. And that's another topic, and we can talk about it another time. But as a daughter in law, understand that things are not going to change in one night, and they shouldn't anyway. So you should not have this expectation, anyways. So, when you enter into this new family, have an open heart, have a accepting heart, and compassion towards your mother-in-law. Make sure that you are doing all your best to kind of not take her son away from her. And I know in many of our families, there people cross their boundaries, people cross lines, and we're going to come to that later. But to begin with, try not to make it a competition. I mean, she's already doing that. She's already feeling insecure. Her son, you know, I am a mother of a son, and he's about 17, mashallah. And I feel like, his time to get married is coming soon. And I struggle with this insecurity that once he's going to get married, he is going to forget me. This is natural. This is very natural. Now, what I do with these feelings is my responsibility. How do I react? Am I becoming controlling? Am I becoming his boss? I'm like ruling his life. That's all my responsibility. And for him, for my son, I teach him that, be just with both of us, give each of us our rights, so that I don't want her wife to be upset. I don't want her wife to hate me. She's also going to be a part of my family. I want to love his wife as my own child. Inshallah. That's what I'm going to try my best to do. But again, there are going to be insecurities. There are going to be some jealousy. There are going to be um, moments and incidents where I would want him to pick my side, or give me more importance. And it is okay to give some more importance to the mother once in a while. That's fine. That's not an issue. Just imagine your own mother. You leave your mother, and the same mother who you left, if she would, uh, she gets mad at you and she cusses at you and she gets like picks up something and throw at you, um, you're going to be fine with that. After a few minutes, you forgive her, you forget about what happened, and then you're hugging your mother again. Just give a little bit of the same emotion and same feeling, same consideration to your mother-in-law as well. um, and how the mother-in-laws should behave, of course, that's another story, and I just kind of touched on it because I am in future, inshallah, I'm going to be a mother-in-law of a daughter-in-law, of a girl. So I this is how I am preparing myself, that being aware of my emotions and my feelings, my insecurities, and getting ready and prepared, how am I going to handle all those things in future. So as much as we would love to, we can't really control our existing mother-in-laws. If you're having any super duper difficult challenges with her, it's it's going to be very difficult to control her behavior towards you. Well, what is the most important thing right now is for you to learn from it, and for you to be ready in future. How are you going to behave when you become a mother-in-law? How are you raising your son? Are you raising your son to be just and truthful or not? So and then again, remember that if you are raising your son to be truthful and just, he's going to say something in the future for what, if he's right, then you have to accept that and you have to acknowledge that. So be ready for that as well. So after all of that, parents mostly just want some care, attention, importance. The way they have babied you when you were little, they want you to baby them now. This is just the cycle of life. This is what happens. This is nature. This will never change. So we have to, at some point, we have to be okay with all of these things. Um, the best way of the best way to avoid clashes and problems and frictions between the two families, the two parents of the both sides, the best way is that each of the spouse handle their own parents. That's the best way. If your husband is handling his family, his parents, and you are handling your parents, so don't allow both of these parents, both of the set of parents, to affect your relationship of because of whatever has happened between you and them, right? So basically, my way of life is, if someone is not bad with me directly, and a third person comes and talk about them, because people share a lot of things, um, a lot of the problems and issues and struggles with me, and ask for advice and things. And then these are also some of the people I know. We all know mutually also, some of the time it's that's the case. My friends come and talk about some other friend, she did this to me, she did that to me, and we're all friends, right? So my personal approach to this kind of situation is that I would give this third person the suggestion what can improve her behavior, or how she should be reacting towards this friend. But my personal relationship with that friend is never going to change. For example, a person A has a problem with B, and A comes to me and complains about it. So I'm going to suggest what would be the best in this situation for A, and how should A react to B, or how should A handle or manage this situation. But my personal relationship with B will never change based on what A has told me. And that's how I think all of us should be, right? So if my husband, let's say if my mother-in-law has a problem with me and she comes and complains to my husband, he should be able to handle her on his own, rather than coming to me and fighting about it, causing friction and tension between me and him. So that should be the best way to go about these kind of situations. So we need to understand that there has to be some boundaries, there has to be some an action plan. Talk about it, talk about these things. You have to discuss with each other, um, uh, about how we're going to handle if certain situation comes out, and what do we do, what do I do. So you have to do that. Also, we need to talk about our expectations. What do I expect from me? What do I expect from my husband towards my parents? How my husband should behave with my parents, and how I should behave towards his parents. The expectations should be clear. You can even write those expectations, it's fine. And this all could be done now. You don't have to, it's never too late. Don't think that if you're already married you cannot work on these things. You can start it tonight, do it. Put your abilities in front of him. Say, these are the things I can actually do, and those are the things I cannot do, and then we all need to kind of um, reassess our expectations of each other. We also need to understand that not everybody is capable of doing everything. Okay, so we need to put this point across. I know women struggle with this more than men, because they're taking care of the whole house, and they're taking care of each and every family member, and they're still not being acknowledged for that. They're not being appreciated for that, and that makes them feel very sad and depressed, and that's not okay, that's not fair. So if whatever the expectations someone has from you, you have to make it clear that, okay, ABC I can do, but DEF I can't, and I'm not going to. So this has to be clear between you two. This is between the spouses. This is between the spouses. So not to treat each other as, um, oh, because you are my wife, so you just have to do every single thing I'm telling you to do, and you don't have a brain, and you don't have a tongue you can use to talk, or you cannot use a heart, you cannot use your eyes and ears and everything, and just do what I'm. No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen either ways. Nobody can control anybody, and that's actually, if it's becoming a controlling situation, that's abuse, and we need to be aware of the signs of abuse also, so to not allow people to abuse us. Because when we allow a certain kind of behavior, then we're like, it's our response, it's our fault, it's our fault. If somebody abuses us and somebody misuses us and take advantage of us, we are the ones who are allowing that. Then we have to understand that it's our fault, not theirs, because we didn't speak up at the right time. Or even when we realized, we understood what's going on, we didn't speak up. We didn't stop it. We didn't create the boundary, and we did not keep it firm. So that's our problem, basically. It's not theirs. It is their behavior, but it's our fault for allowing all that to happen. So we have to have our expectations very clear from the beginning. And if not from the beginning, from tonight, we should be having these kind of conversations with our spouses, and have very, very realistic expectations of each other. Okay. Ideally, it's better that all this is discussed before the marriage, so you understand where this person I'm about to get married to is coming from. What is their understanding? What is their concept of marriage? What are their beliefs? How are they going to respond to a certain situation? You should be asking. So teach your daughters, teach your sons all these things, then before, because sooner or later they're going to get married. So you give them these tools. Give them these tools. You don't just marry a person because they're so beautiful and attractive, because they have a lot of money, because they are super duper very well educated, whatever. You marry a person for their character. You want to know, you want to make sure that they are going to come around when you need their support. They're going to protect you as well. They're going to respect you and honor you, and uh, stand up for you, take your side when it's needed. So you need that support. All right, so in the middle of our session, I am going to make the announcements. This announcement is that if you are watching me right now, type in the comment #live or #replay if you're watching my recording. And then the first 4 responses, the first 4 comments, either #live or #replay, are going to win a free session with me in a Zoom call. It's going to be a private Zoom call, and I'm going to give you a taste of hypnotherapy, a taste of coaching, and you're going to learn a lot in that session. It's going to be a Zoom call. It could be one-on-one, it could be a group call, and hey Bisma, here you go. You won. Congratulations. So comment #live if you're watching me right now, or comment replay if you're watching the recording. All right, awesome. So let's come towards the part about identifying some special behaviors, and then what do you say? How do you manage those behaviors? How do you do about those behaviors? How do you, what do you do to make it work? What do you do to improve, inshallah? So the first behavior, most of the time what do you say, we encounter from our in-laws is a manipulative behavior. It's very common. They are sometimes very manipulative. They would do things and say things, and you will not even realize you're being manipulated. Oftentimes it's because we are trying to give them excuse. We're trying to be nice. We're trying to be humble. We're trying to be forgiving, and we want things to work out. So in a position where you are probably newly married, or maybe you are a very nice person, they become a pushover. They manipulate you, and they do things to annoy you. They do things to upset you, but you can't really do anything about it. The problem here is that the husband need to be the one to step up and set boundaries. And how's that going to happen? That's going to happen when you communicate your concerns to your husband. You have to talk to your husband. It has to be him who needs to build these boundaries, and he needs to establish this for you. I am talking with respect to a daughter in law in relation to her in laws. Okay, so that's why I'm going to be discussing it this way. But it applies both ways. If your family is the one which is manipulative and meddling, then you should be the one telling them to, hey, back off. You can't come between us. You cannot do this. Your place is there. You have love and honor and respect from me and my husband, but this is the limit. Okay, so this is something you need to communicate with your husband, and he needs to step up and do that. One thing you got to be very, very careful about is that do not give your husband ultimatums or threats that you have to do this, otherwise, I'm going to leave the house. You have to do this, otherwise, that. Or, you have to take care of this matter by tonight or by tomorrow. That is going to make him feel threatened, and that's kind of like also a way of competing or putting him in a place where he needs to choose between you and his parents. Never do that. Never do that. Do not create a competition. Okay, there is no competition, so don't do that. When we do that, it just destroys everything from either way, and especially if it's happening from the other side. Then you add to that, then who's going to suffer? Your husband's going to suffer. You two are going to be fighting like cats, but your husband is the one who's going to suffer, who's going to hate both of you, and in the end, parents always win. Parents always win. As a mother, I know I don't want my son to leave me. Okay, and it's very, very painful for a mother when her son leaves her and chooses a daughter-in-law. And it's equally hurtful for the daughter-in-law when he leaves her and chooses his mother. But 90% or even more, I mean, I'm not like calculated statistics or something, but most of the time, from my experience, what I've seen, that men choose their mothers over their wives. So don't create a competition. It is very wrong to create a competition either way. Having family conferences, it's such a great idea. We should actually practice this anyway. Even if you don't have a problem, even if you don't have any concerns, family conferences is such an amazing opportunity for all the family members to get together, bring out their concerns, share their opinions, share their ideas, how they can do things better, how they can, they can learn more about each other, etc. So these are amazing things. Again, family conferences, because we don't practice it much, it's going to be a challenge if you're starting today. But have faith and keep trying, because when it happens, it brings a lot of goodness. It brings a lot of barakah in the family. It's very good when you have a platform where you can sit and talk. Now, the challenge we will face in family conferences, especially if there are concerns and issues, there are going to be emotions. There's going to be arguments. There are going to be like raising of the voices and everything, and sometimes people may be attacking you in some way. So you have to remain calm. That's a challenge. This is what happens. Anytime you bring 2-3 people together and tell them, okay, let's talk about our problem, there's going to be emotions. So it's better that you are mentally prepared that these things are going to happen. So I have to stay calm. I have to stay neutral. I have to stay calm. Think about where the other person is coming from. When we understand that that person themselves is hurt, they are hurt, they are sad, they feel insecure, they are feeling challenged, they are struggling, it gives us a sense compassion towards them. And that's how it's going to be. If you are a better person than what you say you are, if you are someone who is forgiving, then these are the things you should be doing in these times. Not letting people pushing you over. That's not the right behavior. Understanding why they're doing it and then not personalizing it, that's clever. That's smart. That's something you should be doing, okay? So it's going to be emotional. There are going to be outbursts. Just make sure you are calm, you are neutral, and you know when to step out also. You know when to back out, back off. You know when to just relax. You know when to switch the topic. You know when, okay, let's come back to it another time. Things like that. You need to know all of that. And your husband also needs to know. He's the one. He should be the one directing this conference. So, then the next point is, which is a very important point, and it's important in every aspect of our lives, is to set boundaries and set clear boundaries, okay? Not like one day this is okay and the other day it's not okay. When you give mixed signals to people, then they're not sure about how to behave with you. They're not sure about how to treat you, how to deal with you, and how to, how to work with you. How to, should I respect her? Should I not? Is she gonna speak up? She's gonna not. Can I push her today? Maybe not today. So the mixed feelings, mixed emotions, mixed boundaries, all of it is dangerous. It's never going to be beneficial. It's actually going to harm you more. So when you create a boundary, make sure you are firm, make sure you're clear, make sure you're not moving. When I said this is the limit, then this has to be the limit. It's not a line you draw on sand. It's not. Make sure it's not. And that is true in every relationship. That's true in your relationship with your spouse. It's true in your relationship with your in-laws. It's true in your relationships with your children, with your parents, with your siblings, with his siblings, with your colleagues at work, anywhere, with your friends. There has to be everybody's boundary is going to be different. Okay, that's another thing. That's a very different. That's a different understanding, and you are the one who's going to determine anyone's boundary. You're going to determine that. So your friend can come closer to you more than your mother-in-law, maybe, or your sister-in-law, or even your sibling. Sometimes friends are closer than your brother or sister, and that's you. That's who you are, the one who's going to determine the boundary, and you're the one who's going to enforce it. You have to enforce it. You have to repeatedly tell the other person, give them signals, verbal, physical, or cues, body language. However you want to do it, however you are able to do it, but don't be so flexible. Flexibility is good in some other aspects of our life, but not that flexible, not so flexible that people are just bending you and twisting you and turning you every which way they want to. So you don't give them a free hand. So this is another very, very important point. With respect to your in-laws or difficult relatives on the in-laws side, this is going to be difficult to establish. It's not impossible, but it's definitely going to be challenging if your husband is not on board. Any of that, actually, any of what we're going to talk about, what we're talking about today, is going to be very, very difficult if your husband is not on board, unfortunately. So it's very important that you have him with you. So if you find that all of these ideas, all of these concepts are alien to my husband and he's just not understanding it, he's just not comprehending all of that, and I'm finding it too hard and too difficult to make him understand that I have boundaries, I have limits, I cannot deal with this or that. Then it means there is a problem between you and your husband, which you need to work out. And he's the one who is showing completely insensitivity, and a lack of sensitivity and lack of awareness towards these issues. Like, he's sometimes, you see men are completely oblivious about, no, my mom doesn't do that, my mom doesn't do that. Seriously, I mean, sometimes guys, even if you're a sister and you talk to your brother about something that your mom did, he probably is going to take his side than your side. So that's how men are towards their mothers sometimes, most of the time actually, because there is an emotional attachment towards their mothers, so they kind of look over these things. But a smart person, a person who wants things to be better between you two, would definitely pay attention to what you have to say. And inshallah, if you are coming from the right heart, if you're coming with the right intention, you're not there to create distance between him and his mother. You're just there to, like, protect yourself, protect your boundary, and need his support to do that. So if you are having a lot of difficulty creating these things, bringing out these concepts and applying them in your life, then, and you don't have your husband's support, then it's a problem between you and your husband, and that's something you have to figure out with him. Okay, that means that it's more than an in-law issue. It's the marriage that has the problem. So you have to make sure that you um, work with your husband. You have to work with your husband. And the last thing I want to share is that always, always stay neutral and kind. Stay neutral and kind. The way people behave with us is more about them than us. So we have to understand that. Like I was talking to you before, I was telling you guys that, think about where this person is coming from. Maybe they have had a difficult life themselves. Maybe they have to go through these things themselves. Culturally, or even if you don't put culture in there, regardless of the cultural boundary, I see that this mother-in-law and daughter-in-law issue is so common. It's everywhere. It's universal, right? You will not see a woman, a daughter-in-law, who doesn't have a mother-in-law who's meddling in their lives. Rarely. I'm not saying that they don't exist. They do. Good relationships, good mother-in-laws, good daughter-in-laws, they exist. But majority of what we hear and experience as well is a tension and frustration between these two relations, right? So think about where they are coming from. If you have a compassionate heart towards them, then you will understand that this older person, most of them are old, and at that age it's very difficult for them to understand or to change, unless if they want to. A person can only change when they want to change. If they don't want to change, then you can't do anything about it. So think about where they're coming from. Maybe they were treated wrong in their lives when they were younger. As a daughter-in-law, they were treated in a certain way that made them bitter, and now they're like, this is how the cycle is going on. Basically, this is what's happening, is somebody's treated bad and now they're taking revenge for what happened to them with their mother, with their daughter-in-law. So, which is unfortunate, it's sad, it's wrong. But if you want to be the cycle breaker, then you have to change the way you think and you behave towards them. If you're compassionate, if you are forgiving, with the boundaries, not without the boundaries, maintain your boundaries and still forgive them. And then make sure that you don't become that person in your future. You have sons and daughters, you don't become that toxic mother-in-law, inshallah. And for that, you have to continuously working on yourself. If you don't do that, then you're not going to be able to achieve that goal. So you have to try your best to be neutral and kind. Never be threatening, never be challenging, never give this idea that I want to, I'm competing with you, or your son is my husband now, so um, I kind of own him, or he has more responsibility towards me than you. No, try to understand her, try to, do whatever you can, inshallah. Um, all right, so like I said, if you find yourself, if you find this difficult to apply any of these concepts, if you find it hard to get your husband to sit with you and talk about these things, talk about expectations, talk about boundaries, talk about uh, clear expectations for each other, for towards you and your, between you and your spouse, between you and your in-laws. If you're finding this is hard, then understand that this is a problem between you and your husband more than your in-laws, because a husband plays a very important role in in the dynamics in your relationship between in the relationship between you and your mother-in-law. So inshallah, make sure that your marriage is in the right place when you do this. Open communication, clear communication is very important in any relationship. Truthfulness, honesty as in you being honest to yourself is very, very important. Knowing yourself is very important. If you don't know yourself, if you haven't yet discovered yourself, do that. Because if you don't know yourself, then people will do whatever to you, right? Because you think you are either conditioned by the society that you have to just stay humble, you can't speak a word, you have to keep forgiving, you have to wait and wait and wait some more, and then wait some more, and then keep waiting until things are gonna get better. Things never get better on their own. You have to do something. You have to do something about it. So that's a very important point to understand, that you have to do something to make your life better. You have to speak up. You have to face your fears. I know it's difficult. I know confronting somebody is very, very hard. That's something I have a challenge. I find it challenging too. It's actually still very hard for me. Confronting someone is hard for me. I tend to avoid the person. I'm like, okay, I better not even see this person because I have to confront them. I won't. I choose that. It works if they are not living with you, but it's gonna it's gonna make you miserable if they are somebody who's living with you. You have to learn how to confront people. You have to learn how to do the problem solving, and you need to learn how to resolve issues. You need to learn how to be able to speak to each other regarding these issues, keeping your emotions in place. It's very important to keep your emotions in place, to be rational, to be controlled, and not run by your emotions. Don't let your emotions run you. All right. So towards the end, I'm gonna make the announcement again. I think for this session, I already have 4 people. Mashallah, amazing. #live. If you are watching me live, comment #live. If you are watching me in the replay, comment #replay. Invite more friends into the group and help them benefit from these sessions. I will be removing these recordings in a week, so I would appreciate if you guys watch all the recordings before they're gone. And inshallah, I'm going to be coming with another exciting topic next Wednesday or Tuesday. We're going to figure it out and let you know in the group. Say hello to me. Tell me where you're joining me from. Tell me where you're watching me from. And if you're enjoying these sessions or not, give me feedback. I love your feedback, and it helps me do a better job, inshallah. All right. So I wish you guys, I wish all of you all the best in your lives, in your marriages, and I pray that I pray that the love between you two grow, and both of the spouses, you and your husbands, um, work together towards a better relationship, better marriage, and be a role model for the future generation, because they need that. They need to see happy, positive, healthy relationships, healthy marriages, so their hope in marriage comes back. Unfortunately, that's what we're missing now in the society. Our youth is very much discouraged because of what they're seeing. And that kind of puts us on the spot. It's our fault because we're the generation right before them. We're the ones who are the role models for them. Regardless if their grandparents were extremely cruel people, they're not seeing that. They're seeing us. So that's the reality. And we have to face it. We have to realize and recognize this thing, that it is us who they are watching, and it's us who they are making their decision about marriage or understanding about marriage based on. They're seeing our marriages, and then they're making these decisions. What and how their grandparents lived, what did they do to you, how they treated you, they were horrible people or not, they were loving or not, the kids don't know. They haven't seen it. No matter how much you tell them, it's actually not encouraged. I don't like people turning the kids against their grandparents. It's not okay. Do not destroy anyone else's relationship based on your experience with somebody. So, let the kids, don't take away the grandparents from the kids, okay? Let them enjoy them. And they are, again, the important part is that you are the one they are watching, and you are the one they are learning what marriage is from. So it's very important for us to reflect and get together and talk about it, and inshallah improve our marriages the way it's supposed to be. All right. So if you have any question, you can PM me. You can post in the group. Let me know. I will love to answer your questions. You can ask me right now. And take care of yourselves. And I'll come back with something else, something amazing, something interesting, something beneficial in a few days. All right. You take care of yourselves. Have a very beautiful rest of your week. Assalamu alaikum.